Oh, it's a good day. We are getting more, and Vin Diesel is involved in this mess now. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your number one source for everything. It ends with us, Saga! Here's the very brief context you need. Just before the 4th of July, Rug Pull and Justin Baldoni's former publicist Stephanie Jones of JonesWorks joined forces to file a motion to the judge to delay their case management plan. Yesterday, Team Baldoni Wayfarer filed an opposition to that delay. Baldoni and Wayfarer did agree to allow an extension for discovery, but they explicitly say, quote, the motion should be denied except to the extent that it seeks to extend deposition deadline to September 30th, 2025. The Baldoni Wayfarer parties want the depositions done by August at the latest. That video yesterday was because the response was savage. She edited the movie. Who cares about the footage? She's already seen it all. Well, understandably, Team Blakezilla is very upset for a few reasons. They tell the judge the Wayfarer party's opposition to the delay in the case management schedule raises several new arguments and factual assertions, including the claim there are no deficiencies in their document productions. Since filing the motion last week, Ms. Lively has identified additional deficiencies, including new issues that came to light within the past day, making a brief reply necessary to ensure the record is accurate and complete. Also, they allege that the Wayfarer parties have made mischaracterizations of her diligence in discovery. But I don't understand this because they literally tell Judge Lyman, as an initial matter, the Wayfarer parties have agreed to extend the deadline for the completion of depositions from August 14th to September 30th. They agreed to that today? Because in the letter yesterday, which I read verbatim, the part about not extending depositions, they said they don't want to extend depositions to September 30th. Notwithstanding this agreement, the Wayfarer parties have filed an opposition in order to assert baseless, false, and irrelevant accusations about Miss Lively, such as that Miss Lively has failed to diligently engage in discovery and seeks unnecessarily to delay her July 17th deposition. This false claim just so happens to parrot the sanctionable narrative spun by Wayfarer's lead counsel Brian Friedman for months. Namely, that Miss Lively is hiding the truth and afraid of being deposed. To be clear, all of that is categorically false. Not only has Miss Lively repeatedly stated that she intends to move forward with her deposition on July 17th, it is actually the Wayfarer parties who, just hours after submitting their opposition yesterday, sought to take that deposition off the calendar, relying upon a brazen misrepresentation that they were responding to a request that Miss Lively never made. In a footnote, they also complained to the judge that the Wayfarer parties refused to agree that Miss Lively's deposition be held at her counsel's office to ensure that appropriate security measures could be in place under the supervision of her counsel. This is particularly concerning given the high-profile nature of this case. the substantial public and media interest, Miss Lively's right to personal safety, and the protections of the court's protective order, especially in light of Mr. Friedman's previous threats to live stream and sell tickets to Miss Lively's deposition, as well as recent allegations detailed in recent filings in Los Angeles Superior Court of unprofessional and physically aggressive deposition tactics by Mr. Friedman. See Exhibit B. Exhibit B is literally over 400 pages. We're not going to get into this because this is about Vin Diesel and his lawyer, Brian Friedman. There are allegations that Brian Friedman got aggressive with the counsel for the opposing party. Keyword: allegations. Back to the high school graduate's response to the judge today. The reality, contrary to the Wayfarer party's alternative facts, is that Miss Lively is ready and eager to sit for her deposition on July 17th, which is why, unlike the majority of the Wayfarer parties, she substantially completed her document production well in advance of the deposition date. The same cannot be said for the Wayfarer parties. Miss Lively has made painstaking efforts to diligently engage in discovery in this case, as evidenced by her fulsome productions to date and her multiple motions to compel the Wayfarer parties and third parties represented by Wayfarer counsel to disclose even the most basic documents in response to discovery. At each turn, the Wayfarer parties have refused to produce key documents and have taken obstructive and unreasonable positions. And even in the face of a court-ordered deadline to complete substantial document productions by July 1st, the Wayfarer parties' productions remain materially incomplete. To date, the Wayfarer parties have failed to even produce all communications contained within their first amended complaint and Exhibit A. For his part, Mr. Sorowitz has produced only 2 documents. A production that is indisputably deficient given that he is Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier. The productions by Mr. Heath, Mr. Baldoni, Miss Abel, Miss Nathan, and Tag are similarly deficient. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni produced only limited text messages, and Miss Nathan, Tag, and Miss Abel failed to produce texts that Miss Lively knows to be in their possession and which are directly responsive to pending requests. How does she know? Van Zan Sham. Further, while Miss Lively intends to meet and confer with the Wayfarer parties about these deficiencies before seeking formal judicial intervention, Miss Lively has recently learned that the 150 hours of film footage produced by the Wayfarer parties is materially defective. The video files were produced without embedded audio, meaning that while film footage can be reviewed, it can only be reviewed without audio. Thereby rendering the production of that footage incomplete and unusable for any substantive purposes. Notwithstanding these clear deficiencies, Miss Lively has arranged her calendar in order to sit for her deposition on July 17th. Rather than address these glaring discovery shortcomings, the Wayfarer parties instead try to pass blame to Miss Lively for somehow failing to exercise diligence in conducting discovery and scheduling depositions. But this argument is belied by the factual record. Given the Wayfarer party's continued discovery woes, the case plan must be amended to extend the time for depositions and to order completion of party document productions. The Wayfarer party's attempt to cast this request as delay mischaracterizes the request. Miss Lively seeks to establish an efficient schedule to address the obvious deficiencies in the Wayfarer party's document productions. Which, if the video has no audio, If everything they've alleged in this letter is true, I'm going to agree with Team Sham and say the judge should delay the case management schedule. What do you think? Let's discuss it all in the comments section.